Good morning, everyone. Hope you're well. Hope you all had a good weekend. I did. Just a little shout out. I don't know if any of you are into sort of guns or shooting, but I spent a day shooting yesterday. It's a hobby of mine, passion of mine. And then I spent a day shooting with Vinny. And Vinny has got a channel on YouTube. It's Vin's Vintage Tools and Air Guns. And he's a true master. He's an ex-serviceman, served in Northern Ireland and other places. He's a marksman. But if any of you are into shooting or guns, then head over to Vin's Vintage Tools and Air Guns. Great fella. Also, another little shout out to a channel I sort of stumbled across recently. He's doing some really different and interesting stuff. He likes to play antagonist a lot of the time. You know, he's quite happy to roll you guys up. You know, he likes to sort of dive into the conspiracies and stuff like that a little bit. But he's doing some really interesting work. He's putting a lot of effort into his videos, and it's just that he's taking a different angle on some stuff. Yeah, he's just got some good interesting stuff, and he's putting the work in, and that is Clown Fighter. I think it's Clown_Fighter. But give it a look. You might not agree with everything, but he's putting the work in, and he's giving us a different angle, and he's you know, he's doing a good job. He's putting the graft in. He's got some views on there. So go give that a look. Clown_Fighter. Right, let's get into the weekend's action. I've got to start with Dalton Smith, haven't we? Against Zepeda. This started out, Zepeda he starts his attacks from a long way out in this fight, Zepeda did. So he started them at distance. And what he did was, when he launched the attacks, he would widen his stance. He would really widen the distance between both feet. And that would allow him to, when he launches the shot, he would then sort of advance his stance and widen his stance, and that would put him in range. And he did catch Dalton Smith with one or two. Dalton Smith was really good and this is a really sort of subtle, underappreciated thing, but every time Zepeda did land, and when he didn't land, Smith would always very instinctively move backwards, whether it was via his feet or his upper body movement and his head movement, to always to move the same direction as the shot, to take the sting off the shot. Or if it was up close, he would instantly get in close and close the range so that Zepeda could land a second shot. A couple of occasions he did land ones and twos, but it was never any more than two punches, because he always dealt with taking the sting off the punch by using his feet cleverly or using his head cleverly, or then closing the range and using that very cleverly. But where the problem started to lie was around about round 4. Smith really started to time him. He really started to time him beautifully. And Zepeda used this same tactic of launching these attacks from distance by widening his feet, which would allow sort of his shots to then be in range. And Smith started to time that beautifully. He started to time it to head and to body, and he'd done it a few times. He threw quite a few lovely counter punches. His timing was absolutely impeccable. And by the end, the body shot he threw, again, timed wonderfully, landed right at the pit of the gut. It was an absolute thing of beauty. You know, that was, body shots don't get thrown any better than that, I'm afraid. That was absolutely superb. So really good by Dalton Smith. So many positive things to take from that performance. So many positive parts of his game that have been polished. And like I said, the way he used his position to take the sting out of the shots or close the range on the shots only comes from many hours of sparring and drilling. So that was really good. You know, we're going to talk about Adam Azim, and I do believe, I really like Adam Azim. I like him as a kid. I like him as a fighter. Adam Azim will pose him very different problems and looks than what Zepeda did. You know, I don't know who I'd pick in that. Really good fight. Adam Azim's sort of camp are now going to get a lot of shit for swerving Dalton Smith at this point, but do you expect anything different? They'll save this one for down the road a bit, and I know the argument is put out there, and G-Man put this out, this is correct. They'll say, well, if you're European champion, you're experienced enough to take Smith now. And that is true, very true, but, you know, this is how the game works, and they'll hang that out, you know, for a bit, won't they? So don't expect that next, I'm afraid. As great a fight as what that is. But yeah, Dalton Smith kind of highlighted the weekend for me. I always love to see really well-schooled, really well-drilled and really polished fighters. I kind of, you know, Nick Ball's another one for me. Didn't show it in the first half of his last fight, but just guys who've done it properly. You can see no corners are cut in the gym. There's been no corners cut in their training or learning their craft. So I really, really appreciate that when I see it. And Dalton Smith gave a fantastic example. So hats off to Dalton Smith. Absolute performance of the weekend for me. Superb. The other thing I want to talk about is Campbell Hatton. Now, let's cover his sort of technical performance first. Look, Campbell Hatton is not terrible and he's getting a lot of shit. There's a lot of things he does well. He certainly suffered for the lack of amateur experience and just the lack of experience in general. That is evident. You know, one of the problems that exists for Campbell Hatton for me is the fact that he punches he fights very much in the mold of his old man. He boxes with the style of being a puncher, and he's at this point clearly not a puncher. His style doesn't lend itself to someone who can't punch. He doesn't box well enough. He can't box well enough to win rounds clearly with punches just on a scoring basis, and he doesn't have power, and he boxes in the style of someone with power. One thing I'll say about fighters like Campbell Hatton, Conor Benn, Eubank Jr., as much as the argument is thrown at them, and it's a correct argument, that they get many advantages and many leg ups, shall we say, because of the name and because of their father and because of the family name and heritage. And this is true. So in that respect, it's a great advantage they have over guys that don't have that family lineage. But it's also a major disadvantage in the fact that pretty much, now boxing fans, a lot of boxing fans out there, especially in this country, are quite frankly fucking idiots. And they will just jump on a guy and give him shit just because of who their father is and the fact they're never going to live up to their father. And it's a curse. As much as that as being a blessing, it's as much of a curse. Now, I wasn't a fan of Chris Eubank Jr. for a lot of his career until I saw a documentary on Diary of a CEO, a podcast on Diary of a CEO. And he gave a little insight into that. And I came up with a newfound respect. And I've always respected him as a fighter, as I respect every fighter. Because I know getting in them ropes is a lonely, lonely place. It's a hard place, an unforgiving place. So, you know, I respect everyone that gets through the ring, whatever level it's at. And Eubank Jr. was massively hated by the public, and he didn't do himself any favours. Yes, he kind of took on the mantle, kind of as Mayweather did, I think, you know, with a mindset of you're going to sell as many or as more tickets being hated as you are loved. So he took on that very easily and very comfortably early on. But these guys get a lot of shit when they've got that old man and when they don't live up to that old man. You know, Conor Benn the same. And take the PED shit out of the way. I quite like Conor Benn as a guy. And I think the progression he's shown as a fighter was tremendous. Other than the fact that at this point the power seems to be gone. We can talk about that in a separate episode. But so first off, these guys have got to have a tremendous amount of mental strength to put up with the shit they get, because everyone's human. So, you know, I think we shouldn't be too hard on Campbell Hatton on that degree. The kid is trying, and he doesn't have to fight. Listen, trust me, fighting's a fucking hard game, a very hard game, as anyone who's tried it will tell you. All right, so fighting's a hard game, and then with that on top, so he hasn't got to do it, and he's doing it. So let's give him some respect for that. But when I compare him in an attribute sense, in an ability sense to Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, he's not on the level of those guys in ability-wise, in pure skill. Campbell Hatton's not on that level. And Conor Benn's had a short career. He didn't have an amateur career. So, you know, comparatively, you can compare the two in that sense. And Campbell Hatton, you know, he looks like he needs double the amount of fights than what he's had now to really get anywhere, because it really is a slow progress of him. And look, maybe he won't get there. Boxing is very comparative to dancing in a way. I've seen guys that come in the gym and no matter how much they drilled, no matter how much they were taught, they just couldn't get it. Like, they just couldn't get it. Some guys can't dance. I can't dance. You know, no matter how hard you try, sometimes you won't fit that peg in that hole, and it just doesn't work, and it just won't sink in, and you just can't do it. You know, but Campbell Hatton, is he one of those guys? You know, because I don't believe that there's things that are wrong in the gym. There's corners cut in the gym, or what they're doing in the gym isn't right. I just, there has to be a certain amount of natural ability, and he's got a little bit. He's got a certain amount, but by the same degree of how much he's got, there's probably an amount that he hasn't got. And I don't know how long Campbell Hatton's career goes, if he'll ever get it. But yeah, Campbell Hatton, I feel for the guy because he's getting a lot of shit, and he shouldn't be getting shit. The guy's trying. If he's putting the effort in and he's got the balls to get in there, especially none of you armchair fans who are giving him shit in the comments, which I see you, your jokes, leave it out because he's doing it and you're not. And regardless if he's got the ability or not, he's still doing it. So let's not be too hard on Campbell Hatton. We can critique him from a excuse me, I've got massive silence problems, but we can forgive him from, this is what happens when you've had your nose broke 4 or 5 times. But yeah, so we can forgive Campbell Hatton, for his. You can't have a go at someone for their lack of talent. If they've put in the effort in and they've got the balls to do it, you can't criticise them on a lack of talent. They can't do anything about that. So let's give Campbell Hatton a break and let's just critique him on the technical aspect. And at this point, yeah, there was always a chance Chris Eubank Jr. could win a world title. He was good enough to win a world title, depending on who he's fighting against. There are many guys who hold titles who are not world level. So it wasn't out of the way that Eubank Jr. could at some point pick up a world title. And even Conor Benn, even though with a distinct lack of power, he's got ability. And against certain guys, he can win a world title against. But Campbell Hatton, you look and you think, probably not, unfortunately. Did any of you see a little matchroom release where Turki Al-Sheikh, the excellent Turki Al-Sheikh, it is proving in terms of boxing, isn't it, was there with Frank and Eddie, and they were revealing the weights for the V5. I'm still watching kind of bewilderment the fact that now Frank and Eddie, if you know anything about body language and stuff like that, there's a genuine friendly relationship. They are quickly becoming genuine pals, aren't they? And it's great to see. But this Beterbiev versus Bivol card is looking like the card to top all cards. June the 1st, damn. I mean, you all know, you all see what's on it. But Jesus, this. I mentioned this to Joe Stunner yesterday. Has there ever been a more exciting time in boxing in the terms of prospect of shows and cards that we've got coming up? If you'd have mentioned these sort of cards we've had in Saudi, if you'd have mentioned that 3 or 4 years ago, you'd have been laughed out of the room. Because this is just out of this world. This is crazy. The cards that we're getting and the fights coming up, the fights that are being made that would have probably never been made, or certainly not to the tail end of a lot of guys' careers, it's absolutely mental. Absolutely mental where we're at in a minute. But never a better time to be a boxing fan, is there? The game is as strong as ever, and it's absolutely brilliant. But anyway, that's it for today. Little Monday sit down. I'll see you all soon. I'm out.